Welcome to another episode of Behind the Now. Today I chat with internationally renowned world music artist, composer, record producer, and educator, Yuval Ron. Yuval has composed countless songs for theater, dance, concerts, and film and TV, including the Academy Award-winning film West Bank Story. In the mind and body space, Yuval is the author of the book Divine Attunement, Music as a Path to Wisdom, which won the Gold Medal Award for Best Spirituality Book at the Indie Book Awards. And he works with neuroscientists to use the power of music for medical and healing purposes. Listen in to learn about Yuval's journey and infinite creative process in music, composing, and spirituality. Welcome. Thank you so much. So first, I'm going to ask you about your background so far. How did you get into music, composing for films? Where did this start to begin with?
Yeah. Well, my path started in Israel, where I was born and raised, and I I, bec- I was a musician. I was a guitarist, and I played in bands in school and all that. I played jazz and rock and blues and classical music. So that was my life in high school and middle school. And then when I went to the military,
Mm.
I was accepted as a guitarist. So
Wow.
I was lucky to be in the entertainment bands. I was very lucky, and so that led me to the theater because in the troops, the entertainment troops, there was a whole contingent called the theater, the military
Mhm.
and I met all these theater actors and actresses, and people that I didn't meet when I went to high school. They were very,
Mhm.
very artistic, very creative, and I fell in love with the theater. And I was invited then, when I was 19 or 20, I was invited to compose music for theater in Israel. And I started composing for small independent productions, and then I did something in the National Theater in Tel Aviv, and I worked on productions of Beckett and Yeats and some original plays. And so that led me to composing music rather than performing music,
Mm.
and I felt the magic in composing music for the theater when I added the music to the actors. When I put it together, it
Mhm.
was magical. It changed everything. You know.
Yes, it's really amazing. It does. It elevates material like tremendously.
Yeah. It affected the actors
Mhm.
acting. It affected the audience feelings and emotions. It was wonderful. So I fell in love with composing music for theater. And then I was planning to go to Boston to study in Berklee College of Music to study jazz guitar because all I wanted to do before that, when I was in high school, all I wanted to do is play jazz. That's all was my world. And I
Mm.
had a jazz band and we performed in festivals and toured. But when I fell in love in music, composing music for theater, that's all, everything became just secondary. All I wanted
Mhm.
to do is compose music for the theater. And then I thought that composing music for film and TV would be the same. I had no idea what it meant to compose music for film and TV. But I was already registered to study jazz in Berklee College of Music. I was already accepted. But then I changed my major to film scoring, film
Mhm.
composition, film music composition. And I went to Berkeley and I studied film composition and I started scoring music for TV and films and theater and dance. And I spent 9 years in the East Coast doing that. And then I had an opportunity to come to LA to score television shows for Fox. I did Sweet Valley High and
Mhm.
all kinds of Digimon and Power Rangers and Oliver Twist and cartoons and live action. So that's was in the 90s
Mhm.
when I came to LA, and I've been scoring since then, mostly independent films, documentaries, and I also do albums. I perform concerts, I record and
Mhm.
produce albums, and then I got into the mindfulness stuff. That was the last
chapter so far.
Yeah, another turn in the path, to another world. It's a whole world of mindfulness and music for meditation, yoga.
That's beautiful. So I'm gonna go back a little bit. What is your creative process like? So say you are attached to a project, whether that's theater, film, and you can distinguish like what the differences of composing for those. But where do you start? How do you decide, like what inspires you? How do you decide that I want to do this? And then where does your inspiration come from where you start composing?
I'm very much influenced by visuals. So when I see something on screen, immediately I have an idea.
Oh,
Music,
wow.
sound, for colors. I feel something, and I see or I hear colors. I hear ideas for instruments. So that's immediate. So I always prefer to see the cut
Mm,
rather than to read the script. If it's going to be a movie, show me the movie. I don't need to read the script. The script may be wonderful and the film horrible. And
yeah.
so, when they send me the script in early on, I mean that can be interesting for me to know what it is about, the general concept.
Mm,
Say, oh, that's a very interesting concept. Now show me the cut. And
wow.
I need to see the visuals in order to be really inspired. So I work with the picture. I work right with the picture, and that inspires me immediately. And then I create a palette of sounds. I create a world for that film or for that theater play or for the dance piece. I think, what belongs here and what doesn't belong here. And it's like creating a palette of colors,
Mm,
painter to paint, and the painter decide, this painting will not have reds, no red. It's all blues and greens and yellows, but or maybe black and white. A certain decision could be made. It's just black and white. The same thing with music. I decide this film will have it just. I don't hear trumpets here. I just don't hear any brass.
mm,
There's just going to be woodwinds and strings. Why? Because I feel a certain warmth or a certain organic feel that just exclude metal and
yeah.
brass. And you see, so I decide on the. I'm not writing any music yet.
Uh-huh,
It's
just
it's just colors. Once I decide on the colors, I create that palette of orchestra on my computer, the different sounds, all played by computer sounds and the keyboard. And I start writing, playing the themes on the keyboard, and I start scoring the first scene. I like to work chronologically.
mm,
So that is the way it is with film and TV. When I work in theater, it's the text, the lyrics. If the lyrics are beautiful, it's immediately inspiring sound in my head.
mm,
If it's poetic and the language is beautiful, um, and then the rhythm of the lyrics, the rhythm, the poem, the lyrics have a certain rhythm to it, and that inspires a certain music in me.
wow, that's
That's how I work
beautiful.
with the theater, yeah.
Wow, you're so creative. I can just tell. Like, that's so interesting though that you start with you prefer to see, at least for film, the visuals, and then you just hear what goes with that. That's
Right.
amazing.
Or dance, if I see the dance,
Yeah.
somebody moving, I immediately feel a certain kind of music that I wanted to play or to provide to the movement. So I started in the beginning of my career. I actually sat and played for
Hmm.
dancers in dance studios. I just improvised
Mm,
music, and I learned a lot from it. I learned about keeping time.
hmm.
Sometimes dancers they need a pulse, they need a constant pulse. Sometime, and I learn about what works and what doesn't work with movement by playing for dancers early on in my career.
Yeah, that's amazing because you have to be very present, like with
Mhm.
the dancers there.
Absolutely, yeah. When
That's amazing.
they improvise and I improvise, so
Right.
it's like jazz. You have to be 100% alive and in the present.
Yes, yeah, it's with all art. I grew up dancing actually, like I danced growing up and I remember we would have a live pianist and I
Uh-huh.
remember sometimes worrying like Are they, and like they would always say, don't worry about it, don't worry about it. He's gonna be with you. And it's true. Like no matter what happens, that you are able to follow the dancer. Like
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, and supports the dance.
Yes, yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's so cool. So, how do you know when you're working on a film? To what extent is composing a collaboration with the director or the writer, maybe? Like, what is the conversation like to make sure you guys are on the same page? Like, how does that work? Or do they just give it to you and you have the freedom to do whatever you think?
It depends on the collaborator. Some
Mm,
some directors they wish to do a spotting session, and the
okay.
spotting session is where you sit with the director and you watch the film and you stop and start every scene,
Mm,
and you discuss, when the music should start, when the music should go out. The director may have very strong opinions and know exactly when, I want the music to start when she says
mm,
sunshine. They know that, so you take notes.
mhm,
So that's very particular, and sometimes they know what they want. They want something melancholic or something hopeful or something
mhm,
just hints of a little bit of hope, but it's really dark. But they want the music to tell the audience that there's still some hope here, or they want the music to tell the audience, don't take it serious. This is a comedy. We're
mm,
gonna make you laugh in a few seconds. So
mhm,
so the music is kind of light and bouncy. So sometimes the director knows all that, and I just take notes, and then I go to my studio and I work from my notes.
mm,
A lot of time the director doesn't know what they want. They don't know
mhm.
when they want the music to start and end. They don't know what style of music. They don't know what the music even supposed to do,
Mm,
and that is problematic
uh,
because it lets the composer to shoot in the dark. So at least I try to encourage the directors to tell me what is that you want the music
mhm.
to make the audience feel and think at this scene.
Interesting.
Don't tell me what music you want. Just
Right. Yeah. I was just
tell
thinking,
me tell me what is the psychological effect
yes,
of
interesting.
the music that you wish to have here. So,
Okay.
so then they go more into their writing.
Hmm.
When they wrote the script and they're thinking about the psychology of the characters, what is behind what you see, and that's what the music should support. It's the subtext.
Mm. Oh, I love that. Yeah, because I was thinking many directors probably don't know, they don't necessarily know music. You have this full language that they don't necessarily speak.
Right,
So it's interesting. The way you guys communicate that is through like the emotion almost, like the psychology, what you
right,
said.
right. And then,
Interesting.
yeah, and then my job is to translate it
To
from
music, right?
right. So it's a whole range. Sometimes I have a lot of instructions. Sometimes I have very little instruction.
Mm.
And with little instruction it's fine, but the danger is that you shouldn't you're going to do something that is really nice, but it's
Mm.
not what the director wanted. But the director cannot tell you that they don't want it until they hear it.
It's, yeah, I was thinking that, huh?
And instead of defining, once they hear something that is wrong, a lot of directors can finally use words to define
Mm.
what they really want. So
Yeah.
it's like you go to, a designer of a house, and you tell him, what kind of color should we have for the ceiling, and the designer says, well, I don't really know, and then the painter just go and put their purple, and then the designer says, you know what, purple is really wrong. I know it should be something lighter. I know it has to be something maybe a little more creamy. Suddenly they know what they want,
Yeah,
but that's a waste of time and energy
right.
and money, and that's something that happens sometime in this business, and you just have no insurance against that,
Mm.
because sometimes directors just don't know what they want musically.
Yeah.
They really don't know what they want even emotionally.
Or
And,
they think they know what they want, probably, and then when they hear
right,
it, it
right.
might be different than they anticipated.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
They may want, they say, sometimes they would say, I want something really dark here. and then you give them something really dark, and they look at it and they say, this is really heavy. This is dark. This but they asked for dark, but they realized that what they meant is they wanted something contemplative with a little bit of
Ah,
melancholia. They wanted something a little sentimental, but they said the word dark, which is confusing
right.
for the composer. So it's very tricky. The relationship between composers and
Hmm.
directors is very tricky because they go to two different schools. Composers go to music schools and directors go to film schools. And in film schools, they don't study about music.
They should, it should be part of it at least, so they understand how you guys are working as well.
It's really important. Sometimes I go to film schools and I give talks to directors,
Hmm.
students, and I've done that many years, and it's always enlightening and to talk with them about the point of view of the composer. Yeah, I think they should do it more. If you look at the courses in film school,
Hmm.
it's 99% visual,
Yeah,
but
interesting.
sound is so important.
Yeah,
Uh,
it is. And it changes. I almost feel like sound and music is the universal language. Like it's like our first language almost, Like a baby can understand
yeah,
music almost before words.
right, indeed.
So yeah, it's so fundamental.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
amazing. I think of this short film I did once, and I remember watching it afterwards with the music. And I know the director was very set on this specific music, and it was so overpowering and it was so loud and like strong, and it changed the whole thing.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes it can be like that, overwhelming.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very, very delicate, the relationship between the sound and the visual.
Mhm.
It can really help a lot of time.
Yes, definitely.
A lot of, the wonderful moment in this business is when you play a cue to a director or a producer and
Mhm.
they see a scene that maybe they put a temporary music in the editing.
Mm.
Maybe they didn't, but they weren't happy with the temp music. It wasn't really perfect. And now they see it with your score, and suddenly they like their own film better. They like the
I'm
music
sure
better.
that happens
They
all
like
the
the
time.
writing better.
Yeah.
They like the acting better. They like the
Yes,
cutting better. Why? It's all the same. It's the same acting. It's the same
I
cutting. It's the
know.
same. Suddenly it's better. Why? Because the music really made it
Elevates.
work and elevate. Yeah, there's a way that music can make a bad cut seems a good cut. There's a
Oh,
way that
yes. Oh, I know. That's
it's
so true.
timing.
I've seen that.
It's about timing, and music
Right.
can set up the time to for a cut to work where before it didn't. And the same thing with performance. A performance can look so, and
Hmm.
the writing can be so. But if it's the right score, suddenly you believe it. You believe
Yeah.
the actor. You believe the actor. You believe that script because the music injected it with the right emotions that were not there. But
Mm.
the music brought it, and suddenly you believe it. And
Yeah.
that's wonderful moment. That's wonderful moment when a filmmaker turns to you and say, I really like this scene. Now this scene works for me.
Right. That's beautiful.
That's
And
the
it's so true. Music does. It transforms, it really transforms everything, you know? Think
yeah.
about even like your mood when you hear a certain thing, it completely changes. So that just shows, yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. So, in terms of a whole production
Mhm.
for TV or film, however you want to answer it, in what stage does the composer come in? Is that post-production? Like
Yeah.
once you see it?
Unless it's a musical film.
Oh, yes. Oh, that
Uh,
makes sense. Yeah.
Usually the composer comes at the very end in film and TV. So it's
Hmm.
part of post-production when you do the sound effects, you do the music. It's after everything is edited. So that's when you come in. And the exception is musicals. So musicals,
Right.
you have to write the music before they shoot it, before they rehearse it, before they choreograph it. You have to write the music. So then they're gonna know how to dance to it.
Yeah, of course.
So when I did the music on West Bank Story, the film that Ari Sandel wrote and directed, and it won an Oscar in
Mhm.
2007. So I had to write the songs first. Then we recorded it in my studio. Then they filmed it, and I then they edited after the filming, and suddenly the
Hmm.
editor did things to the music, that were not right, So I had to go and smooth. I had to
Oh, wow.
change a few things because the editor cut it like that. I had to fit
Interesting.
the final score to the editing, and then I brought the orchestra to replace the temporary computer orchestra.
Wow.
That was the final. So it's very involved.
Yeah, definitely. At every stage, at every step.
Yeah, you have to work in the beginning. You have to work at the end. It's a lot more work when you have a musical film.
Yeah, I'm sure. That's amazing. You're like a genius, So creative. What are your favorite things to work on?
I love mixing albums. When I mix
Mm,
an album, I spend a lot of time listening to every little detail, and it's a very, very, very long process to when you mix an album
mm,
comes out, it's pure music. Even the soundtrack album, people watch the film with the music, but now they want to get the soundtrack, and then with the
mm.
soundtrack they will sit and listen to it without the movie, and suddenly there are no sound effects and no
Oh,
talk
wow. Yeah.
that cover up on something that is not 100% perfect in the music. So when you mix an album, everything has to be really perfect because it's once you release it, you cannot pull it out. It's part of history,
Mm,
it's out there. So you really spend a lot of time making it perfect, even after the movie was released.
hmm.
Or if it's just an album of music, pure music, people will listen to it as music. So, so that is a very detailed process that I enjoy. I enjoy the creative process of composing music, kind of inventing it from scratch.
It's
Like
amazing that.
right now, there's nothing, and suddenly, in 2 hours from now, there is something.
Hmm.
That didn't exist 2 hours ago, and it feels so good. It feels so good to kind of birth it, to
Hmm.
birth something. It's really an elated. It can be painful, like a birth. It can be painful in the process, but
Yeah.
once you birth it, once the song is there, once the theme is there, you have this really nice feeling of you're like on a cloud. It feels
Hmm.
nice. It feels beautiful, and you just enjoy something that came through you. Something beautiful came through you.
Right.
Wow, that's amazing. So those are the two things that
Yeah.
I really enjoy.
That's beautiful. I love how you describe that because I feel like that as well. And I think all creativity
Yeah,
is that the way you say it came through you, right? Because it is like this sometimes like it could feel like the worky part like here, but then
yeah,
eventually that
yeah,
can go and it comes through you. So
yeah.
that's beautiful.
Yeah. Just for closing, because I need to go.
Yes, yes.
I wanted to mention to everybody who are watching that some of those concepts that we're talking, I wrote about it in a book called Divine Attunement: Music as a Path to
Mm,
Wisdom. And it's especially for creative people, not just musicians, but every creative person may find interesting because I'm writing about these concepts and how the ancient mystics and
mm.
yogis and Kabbalists and all kind of wise sages in the past talked about it, and how neuroscience now is confirming some of those things, and it all has to do with creativity. So if somebody interested, it's available everywhere at Divine Attunement. And if people want to ask me any more questions or want to reach out, they can reach me through my website, yuvalronmusic.com. And through you, if somebody wants to send a question to you, please forward it to me. I'll be happy to answer it.
All right, definitely. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I
Okay.
saw your book. He has such amazing works that everyone should check out.
Great.
Everything's on your website. Very amazing website. So it's amazing.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Jenna.